All right, so we got a top 10 Bruce Springsteen songs plus one that makes the top 11. It's the 4th of July. I'm a little excited to present this to you because this music means clemency to me. And like sort of a key lime pie, it works out on the 4th of July. So number 10 is My Hometown, which is kind of like the music sounds like a dirge. It's not. It's music that is about stabilization, and it gives you your roots and also your stories. So My Hometown is like, it's not the most iconoclastic song or most euphoric song. However, it teaches you about what your stricture should be, about exactly that, about family, friends, and feelings. You know. So that's number 10, My Hometown. Not a bad one to listen to. It has a great effect on you in the end. Getting a little food out of my face. Had some great hamburgers for the 4th of July. Had a picnic. All right. Outdoors. Great outdoors. Wild outdoors. Wild in style. All right. Next one is Human Touch. I think this song is similar to My Hometown, and it's about needing people to be around you who are kind of fun, even if you barely see them. Maybe people that are a little bit kind, even if you barely know them. And that's it. And that's a Stricture alt song. So that's number 9, and that's another Stricture song. I think all these songs by Bruce motherfucking Springsteen are going to be Stricture songs. Um, Number 8, The River. This one is sadder. It's a little like the Nebraska one he did. It's not my favorite one, the Nebraska, but the River is more so a favorite. I say that the River is a little like that poker card in Texas Hold'em. It kind of shines a light, and yet at the same time it surmises doom. And so what you'd have when you listen to this is you realize that the story that you're living is going to be someone else's story, but that story it belongs to someone else for a good reason. And the stricture, you got to listen over and over again, or else you won't get the lesson. I'm kind of fucking up my appearance because I want you to know that I do not need anything other than music at this time, and that is kind of the final word. Indeed, it might even be the last word, because there's always a difference between the final and the last in anything. That's number 8. Obviously, the lyricism is elusive and elusive, somewhat. The poetry isn't super strong in his music, which you kind of have to learn to be used to. However, it is really instructive in terms of, I guess, object-oriented psychology, and of course, object-oriented programming to the brain, and even more so, object-oriented philosophy all around you. So it's sort of semantically profound. Now, and so it's really sort of whiplash effect in terms of song lyric caliber. Now we have number 7. This one's a little random. Number 7 is not my favorite number for a list. However, because you never know what 7 really means. However, I would go with Tunnel of Love wasn't bad. That's always a fun one to teach you about the rites of passage in amorous affairs. If you cannot construe why the boss, aka Bruce Springsteen, would be sort of a role model to that effect as well, then you're probably not cut out for music that is folksy or that is urban, because that's kind of the name of the game. And it's strong listen. It's not very tearjerker. It's not very emotional. It's not very evocative. It's more so implicated, and that makes the music more logical than many other cases where musicians are terrifically comprised and the songs are composed, not just written like a sketch. And now you have that's number 7. Number 6, you have say Streets of Philadelphia, which is a amazing song. It was written for the movie Philadelphia starring Tom Hanks. It's about HIV to a great extent. However, the song is really also about Philadelphia, the city, and any city like it, which is most cities in this country when you get down to it, if they have a downtown, and I think they have to, even in Texas. They'll have a downtown, and that downtown is a bunch of buildings that do not like anyone, right? Always. So, you find yourself downtrodden there, then you wonder, what's the point of America? What's the point of yourself? Hard to look in the mirror at that point. And you kind of wish you were outside forever, but you can't stand the weather. That's called the street. And the Philadelphia streets are not that lame. They're also not that violent, and they're also not that boring, and they're also not that exciting. So it's a conundrum. And I think if you can view any city like it's Philadelphia, you're on the right track in terms of who you start to get to know, who you start to meet. So this is my mansion video. As you can see, my wonderful mansion here. All this boutique artwork. Sorry, I'll try not to spaz around when we're doing on the bed. Hopefully I will not do an on the bed video anytime after this. This is just in conjunction with the Bob Dylan one, which I thought was pretty funny. Whatever it's called. Might have been on the logs, on the bath. Usually we do an on the couch. Or on the bunk. I'm not convinced that was what that one was. So I will call anything it needs to be called. For now, I'll say it might be called on the bed still. And so this is going to tie into the Bob Dylan one, who I think is also a working man's champion. And so you got two greats. One's a little younger than the other one. I think they're kind of the same age. And they just, one looks a little stronger than the other one does, because there's different types of working class men. There's some that blue collar, some that are white collar, some that are kind of no collar, which is who Bob tends to appeal to. People who might not even really have a job. Bruce Springsteen, he kind of appeals to people that think they have a job. Again, not to equivocate, those could be the same person. It's different times of the day. Keep that in mind. So now, Streets of Philadelphia is very tender because you know that death is truly in the picture. Total destitution and with despair is in frame. However, it's only number 6 for me because it's just a little too sour in the end. Most of those were a little too unmiraculous in their sort of crescendi. They don't really have a strong melodic frame or attack. Hungry Heart is an exception to this rule. Hungry Heart is number 5. Because Hungry Heart kind of has it all, at the same time is very logical as well, and ends up being a rational song despite the appearance of an effusive expression, which would make you kind of bipolar, because this music is not adventurous music. It's very calculated, dyed in the wool, stayed, and concentrated in a serviceable way that makes it kind of like a product, and that's why there's a lot of money going towards Bruce Springsteen. There always has been, from what I observed. Probably not strictly speaking true, but it always appears that way to me. And I'm not a scholar on his life or anything like that. However, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, they like to help people, from what I can tell, and that's called generosity. It's also called charity. It's also called freedom. And it can even be called boredom. Because that's what we do when we're bored, right? We try to help someone some which way, somehow try to get work done. So you're on the job. Hungry Heart is about not really having the job you need, only the job that others say you need. And what you want is somehow splitting a new difference. Not easy to find. However, that song might provide you with a foundation. So you got to view these in faith, and with hope and rain as well. Been raining a lot this 4th of July. I've been outside. I had a picnic in the rain. Can you believe that? Yes, you have to, because it's not that hard to do in Texas. If you're an eccentric. However, I am not that eccentric. It was hard to do, and I still did it. Because I want to position myself like one. Because there are so many eccentrics here. Wrong. There are very few. So I'm annoyed. And then you have another great song by, so that was number 5, Hungry Heart. Easy 5. Brilliant Disguise, number 4. I say Brilliant Disguise is underrated. It's a song that's about reimagining your social life, which is unusual for a song to really address that. Usually a song like that would be blaming a woman. In this case, it does not really blame her. It more or less readjusts her into a better picture where she is no longer the primary villain. And then a new woman shows up who is adequate for your own, intellect and your intrigue and your interests and your imagination. And that's called being an adult. So also the music videos and all of these, I should say, Brilliant Disguise has got a good music video because the background is iconic interiors in a 1980s kitchen. I believe it was 1987 or so. Really scary that none of those objects can be found at any store in any city very easily. You have to order them on the internet or just sort of raid a place that still looked like that, which I do not think can be said exists. Only cached away hiddenly. So that kitchen is hard to find. You have Streets of Philadelphia music video. Hungry Heart, I haven't really seen a music video for it. It's from the River album, let's say. That album cover can be a music video all its own. It's a rather Rolling Stones style album cover, which is a nice push over to another great band that's a little similar sometimes. And I think that might be the British analog to Bruce Springsteen if you really had to find one very quickly. So if you like them, you might like Bruce Springsteen. If you like Bruce Springsteen already in the E Street Band, you might like the Rolling Stones with Mick Jagger as the singer. However, the guitar player for the E Street Band has sometimes been someone who does look like Keith Richards. So I think that's also a something that's been intelligently designed. All right. Streets of Philadelphia music video is one of the more stylish ones, and it's also one of the more Hollywood ones. So I think as music videos go, it's not my favorite. Again, I made it number 6 for this reason that I just don't like the imagery. It would be higher if I did. Tunnel of Love and Human Touch have a similar music video with completely different tonal colors. To me, that represents an interest in portraiture, not in landscape. And that's about as complex as it gets, which is, again, disappointing. I'm not a big fan of his music videos, and I can see why you wouldn't be also a fan of his music because of just pure and crass association. No matter how rude it ends up being, or lewd when you have to explain yourself. Now, up next, number 4. At number 4, Brilliant Disguise. Number 3, 2, and 1. Number 3 is for me is Born to Run. I think it's a really intense song. I do not think it's the most honest song. I know for a fact it's about someone who wants to have some sort of getaway adventure, more or less a vacation, and cannot land one that's cool. And so you listen to the song, it's like the drama that you have to have in order to program your own adventure in life. It's very computational. However, people will view it as if it's a super emotional song. I know superficially it's an emotional piece. I do not think it lends to reason that it rests as one. Because if you view it rationally or pragmatically, or practically or reasonably, you will find that Born to Run is kind of rearranging your neurons so that they connect to each other with less duress. And it's a utilitarian song with a lot of charge and emotion for a song that is written to be kind of disappointing, as a medicine, as a psychiatric pill. Born to Run. And of course, the lyrics are powerful. Most of the lyrics by themselves can be powerful with Bruce's music. However, the delivery is always understated on purpose. Keep that in mind about him. He is a smart individual and probably has a story between the lines that would surprise even the most discerning fan of rock music. Because I do not really think he is a rock musician in many ways. He is a folk musician in many ways also. However, it is pop rock to some. I would call it folk rock quite often as well. Which is not the same thing as blues rock. It is not the same thing as sort of gritty street music, which is kind of how he's built. And it's not the same thing. So keep in mind these words have extreme differences. Even though they sound like they are purely identical, they are strong synonyms only. So it's Born to Run. Of course, that one's about a relationship. You'd say, I think it might be more about an affair. All right, that is words from the wise. The next one, number 2, one I've always sort of thought was about Vietnam. Born in the USA. That's about having a strong attitude about the army and about factory work. That's about rearranging your perspective by adjusting those glial cells and those astrocytes in your nougat, making you really figure out how to have a swell outlook, not a bitter one, in the ultimate finish. So that's how I view all his music, because I don't like to listen to his music with sappiness. I totally believe that music is supposed to be used as healing music. And I don't view a lot of music like that, which is why I think he's remarkable and deserves a character in this story, which is my channel, which is a channel that has a lot of characters because I kind of reframe everyone into an expose, don't I? All right. Maybe going forth, I'll do it a lot more often, effectively, not just ambiently. That's number 2. Number 1 is Dancing in the Dark. I always thought that was his most emotional piece, almost a ballad, tender. There's a lot of 80s music that's quite like it, and it stands alone as a competitive tour de force. However, I did not really think that sort of shade of music could be insincere. Turns out, I think it follows the same rule that we've been going with this whole time, which is that his music is strongly logical and opposed to disastrous emotion. And I believe that song is supposed to set you back on track and not supposed to make you over sympathize with the singer, who seems a little bit like a douchebag on purpose, which means that he's seen detached from the character who has the voice. And Dancing in the Dark, it's like someone who's bored with their life and wants to have fun in the middle of the night. However, it could also be perceived as someone who is broke and strung out. It might be about to be evicted from their land, from their unit, from their spouse. That could be happening. However, that's a read into it that implies some sort of pre-existing knowledge about Bruce Springsteen's emotions. Not so much, but maybe just your own emotions, which are being projected onto the audio. If you listen to the lyrics and observe them also as they are written on a website of some sort, it's not about that at all. So that's number 1. It's all music that's supposed to stereotype music that is really deranged, because I think Bruce Springsteen grew up very aware of that type of thing and very tired by it. And he wanted to promote music that actually helps people as his foremost achievement. And that has earned him $1 billion. And congratulations, Bruce Springsteen, for your happy birthday. I think you turned pretty old recently. You're a billionaire now. And also, congratulations on still touring and all that. I know that no one thanks you enough for that one in a video. So yeah, a video that's not really about lying about you on YouTube. That's what I mean. Anyway, that's 20 minutes. That's usually how far I go. Next one up, I hope we do a Thin Lizzy, and I hope we do The Who, and we will do top 11 for those both. This was You're on the Bed. It's a rainy 4th of July Friday. It's 4:21 p.m. High Times Magazine give you a call once you stop listening in. Yeah, so stay sweaty on that street of dreams, right? Stay sweaty on that street of dreams. Keep token, keep poking. That is your top 11 Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. That is your top 11 Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band tracks. So stay on track. My final word and my last word of advice. This 2025.